Welcome back to another explainer made by Forge College. If you remember our last lesson in this Bitcoin fundamentals track, specifically on SegWit transaction structure and witness data, we looked at how witness data is physically arranged. Well, today we're taking that a step further. We're going to see how segregating that witness data practically solves the massive headache of transaction malleability and, as a really cool happy byproduct, dramatically boosts network throughput. It's a fantastic two-for-one deal in Bitcoin engineering, literally like fixing a leaky pipe and accidentally discovering a gold mine.
So here's our blueprint for today's explainer. We'll start with the malleability headache. Then we'll compare t side x versus wt side x. After that, we'll unpack the throughput bonus, do the actual math to prove it, and wrap up with your key takeaways. Let's get into it.
First up, the malleability headache, or the signature forgery that wasn't.
You know, for years, transaction malleability gave Bitcoin developers absolute nightmares. So what exactly is it? Essentially, it's when someone modifies the digital signature encoding of a transaction just enough to change its transaction ID, or txid, without actually invalidating the spend itself. Think of it like this. Imagine someone tracing over your signature on a physical check with a slightly different color of blue ink. The check still clears, the money moves exactly as you intended, but the bank maliciously changes the check number, throwing your entire personal accounting software into total hair-pulling chaos.
And in the real world of Bitcoin, that chaos was a huge deal. If a relay node altered the signature encoding in a legacy transaction, like, say, by just tweaking the padding, the resulting new identifier would completely break layer 2 payment channels and unconfirmed transaction tracking. If your wallet was waiting for a specific txid to confirm and the network changed it mid-flight, well, your wallet suddenly thinks the transaction vanished into thin air even though it actually succeeded.
Which brings us to our second point. txid versus wtxid explained. Two identifiers, one very elegant solution.
So how does SegWit solve this mess? Basically by bringing out the scissors. It structurally segregates the witness data, which gives us a dual identifier system. Looking at the legacy transactions, they lump everything together, including those malleable signatures, into one single hash calculation. But with SegWit, it isolates the base data to generate a stable, unchangeable txid while quarantining the flexible signature data completely separate in the witness area.
Let's actually look at the code logic for this. First, nodes strip the witness data away. Then they apply a standard double SHA-256 hash to that base data to get our rock-solid txid. Finally, they hash the full package, so including the witness, to get the validation-focused wtxid. It's brilliant because if a signature encoding changes in transit now, only the wtxid changes. That core txid stays perfectly intact.
Now, by protecting the tricks, SegWit obviously makes building on Bitcoin much safer. But this leads us to a really fascinating question. What happens when we move those bulky signatures out of the base block space? Like, sure, it's more secure, but is it actually faster?
Let's jump into part 3, the throughput bonus and how we're swapping byte limits for weight units.
Okay, so fixing this security bug accidentally gave us a massive scalability upgrade. It literally shifted the network from a rigid 1 megabyte size limit to a 4 million weight unit limit. And under these new BIP 141 rules, the magic multiplier is the number 4. Every stripped base byte is multiplied by 4, but witness bytes, they just get added at face value. It's essentially a massive permanent Black Friday discount for signature data. Understanding this multiplier is absolutely crucial to mastering modern Bitcoin economics.
Here's the exact formula we use. Weight equals the stripped size multiplied by 4 plus the witness size. Looking at this, you can probably already tell that input-heavy transactions, which are naturally loaded with large signatures, are going to benefit the absolute most from this new accounting method. Because the signatures get that huge discount, the overall transaction effectively weighs less.
All right, section 4. Let's do the math and actually prove these throughput gains.
Let's plug in some actual numbers to see exactly how much space we're saving on the blockchain. Imagine a legacy transaction of 250 bytes. Since every byte counts the same there, that's a straight 1,000 weight units. But if we format that exact same transaction as SegWit with, say, 140 stripped bytes and 110 witness bytes, the math completely changes. 140 times 4 is 560, plus the 110 witness bytes, it comes out to just 670 weight units.
And this chart makes it painfully obvious. By literally just rearranging the data, we achieved a 33% reduction in relative weight for the exact same transaction. meaning miners can pack way more transactions into a single block. It's just an incredibly elegant engineering victory. Finally, Section 5. Let's hit the key takeaways to get you ready for the lab.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from malleability bugs to weight unit arithmetic. If you remember nothing else from this explainer, distill it down to these core principles. First, always be explicit whether you're referencing the stable txid or the mutable wtxid. Second, always use that BIP 141 formula when estimating your capacity improvements. And third, remember that those input-heavy transactions are for sure your best friends when trying to maximize network throughput.
Definitely keep these concepts fresh for our next lesson, where we'll actually build these transactions by hand. But before you go, think about this. If just separating data gave Bitcoin a 33% efficiency boost without even needing a hard fork, what other massive optimizations might be hiding in plain sight in the protocol? It's pretty wild to think about. To explore that question and dive deeper into Web3, visit Forge College. Thanks for joining this explainer made by Forge College, and I'll see you in the next one.